Okay, so today's experience in class inspired me to do a little more digging, a little bit more learning about how some of these theoretical practices and concepts for spreadsheets can be put into action, especially regarding the Google presentation software. So if you look at the website, there's a few changes. I may add a few more. I'm also going to show you a couple practical examples of things that I was tinkering around with as I was learning. For cell types and formatting, it's pretty much what you expect. You can expand this image to get a sample, but it would be in the format section of the menu bar at the top of the user interface in the cloud software. You can change numbers. This was the most pertinent one, which will allow you to change numbers to currencies, percentage, whole percents, dates, times, etc. So that's how that would work, and allow you to bold and italicize and do all the other things that you could do with Word. Also, for formulas, there was a little sticking point in terms of how to make a relative versus an absolute formula. So here was the key that really unlocked the door for me. The dollar sign's used, but you have to use it for the row and the column in order to lock a cell reference to an absolute position. And that becomes really handy when you are trying to do a formula where you're, in the case of the gradebook, trying to get all of the grades to divide by the one field or the one cell that was the total possible. So I'll get to at least showing how that works. But basically, if you put the dollar in front of both, or there was a shortcut, I should write it in. It was like F4 automatically does that for you. Then both positions are locked in, or you could lock just the row or just the column. For sorting and filtering, there's some sorting tools. I didn't put an image up there. Oops. But to switch back here, the sorting tools can be located. Here's a filtering tool, and I believe it's sorting. You can sort ranges or sort by columns in alphabetical order. I don't believe that the Google spreadsheets is as powerful as Excel, but it does most of the things, and it does it really well, and it does it in a collaborative model. There's a lot of debate online as to which one's better. Back to charts and graphs. The types of charts that you will find here are located in, if you insert a chart or you go to the chart icon on the toolbar and you have line, area, column, bar, scatter, pie, map, trend, and more. Again, data validation. There's a location where you can actually go into data and validate your data and choose numbers and ranges so that if you are trying to keep your data from making a mistake, you can narrow down the chances that you'd make a mistake on the entry. Moving down to functions. We already located some of the basic functions, some average, count, max, minimum. More functions, there's quite a lot. I'm not going to go into all of them. But basically that kind of opens up this into a practical how this would work on the application that you're going to be using. Now on to the example. This example right here, I was tinkering around with two. One thing I noticed, if you guys look here, when you hit an equal sign and you start to choose one, you get this what you want, or you get an autofill of what you might be looking for. And you can't see it now, so I'll have to tinker with my ranges so that it's visible. Nope, it doesn't show. But at some point, I was looking at two, Google Translate and Google Finance, and right from there you're able to do a little extra research and look into an example or the function, and it's given me a little inspiration to create a little bit more practical business application of a spreadsheet where you're doing things with stocks. Also there's a translate, so let me show you how I was able to make these. It's just another function. It gets written into the cell as you're doing it. Don't want to do that. And so what I did is I use the Google Finance tool to create a stock index for some major tech stocks, and I looked at the volume and the price and the change. These are updated live. They give a disclaimer that every 20 minutes, it could be 20 minutes late is what they're saying, and I was able to turn that into a visualization. In this case, the y-axis is the price of the stock and the x-axis is the volume of the stock, which is stock E's for the amount of trades, I believe, in a day. And the change is not reflected in this chart. In this one, I was tinkering around with, and these are the key operators here, the language codes, which there's a link right here that allows you to see the standards for typing in the code. And so what I was able to do is get some basic English phrases coded in EN, and Spanish and French and Welsh, and all I needed to do was type in a phrase right here and it would autofill for all other ones. So if I was going to change hello to the English word for difficult, which is how I would describe some of this stuff, then it automatically translates for Spanish, difficile, French, difficile. Oh no, that would probably be Italian. And the Welsh is amald. And I don't know if my pronunciation is right. But you get the idea how the tool works. Same thing, if I change the index for the stock, it's going to look up this cell and give me the volume and the price and the change for whatever stock I put in. I think I could put Dow. Let's see if it does it. Yeah, it's Dow Chemicals. DJ Industrial Average. That's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. One of the big stories today. Oh, is it DJI? Dow Jones Industrial. Okay, well I'm having trouble finding the Dow, but either way, if you know what the index is, you can type in just about anything and get the information. And notice that the chart is all linked to the graph. Not to the graph, sorry, to the spreadsheet. To reveal a little bit more, you can look at the formulas, and you can see how the formulas look in this frame. Let me open it up a bit so you can see. And here is our relative cell locations. This was my early tinkering. This was me trying to figure out absolute. Didn't quite get it, but it all clicked right about here where I was entering in the fields and did a little search and a little bit of background. And as you can see, the Google Translate, the formula for the Google Translate, if you looked it up, and again you can do that by equals G Google Translate, and it's basically over to the right here. I can't. There we go. Text, the source language, and the target language. So there's 3 fields with a comma. And let me delete that because I don't want to do it. So basically the text is A11, which is this cell. The source language is A10, which is this cell, and it recognizes EN as English. Not English, but English. And B10 is the target language that you want to translate to. So all this is saying is basically this is the function, this cell equals this word in this language translated to that language. And what had happened down here is basically I created absolute values where all it's looking for is the phrase, the relative location of the phrase, which is one cell to the left of the cell that's your target cell. So this one's B14, but it looks at A14, and I locked in the absolute cell. I call it location because I'm crossing language with geography. Absolute cell reference is the correct terminology. And these are absolute cell references so that every time it's looking for this word, it's still looking up here for English and translating it to Spanish. And what this allows me to do, which I think a lot of students weren't able to do in the lab, and it just took me a little while to figure it out so that I could pass it on, and the coding was the same, it just was an application of the technique was incorrect. But basically if I unview this, you can see that I can take any one of these that are coded with the absolute cell reference and choose a cell, copy that cell. I'll paste it down as many times as I feel like right now. So it's pasted that same formula again, looking for the word that I write here, and I'll just go ahead and do it for that just to have it a little bit more dazzle. So I'll copy that cell, which was formatted correctly, and paste it there. And we'll take the Welsh, of which I'm part. My grandmother's part Scotch Welsh. Copy. Paste. So again, I'm just trying to apply that to these 3 columns, and if I continue, the formula should pop up any word that I decide to dream up. Let's just do cat, and there's gato, cat with a CH, and cat apparently is the same in Welsh. Dog, that's automatically doing that for me. Perro, chien, si or chi. Hungry, and I'm going to see what it does for softball, because I have to wrap this up and get ready for a softball game. Cool. Dangerous. Okay, so as you can see, that's basically the formatting's done. The formulas are working, and these are just 2 of the formulas that it allows you to do. And again, if you're looking at all the wonderful things that the functions can do, the functions take a little bit of time to figure out, but you can filter them by the type of task that you're doing. Logical functions, Google functions, that's where you're going to see the ones that I found. Statistical functions, text functions, there's database functions, which I feel we can dive into a little bit more next year and use this to build a simple database. Again, as my skill and our skill goes up, we'll be able to get a little bit better experience with how to do that. But anyway, I just wanted to pass on the day that I had and put this up so that you guys could have another resource to try to unlock some of the mysteries that are spreadsheets. I have to be honest, I'm not a big fan of spreadsheets, but I had a little bit of fun today. I went beyond budgeting and just keeping information on it, and got to understand that depending on what you want to do with it and what your function is and what information and data you want to work with, there's definitely some practical applications to it. Language is very practical, business is very practical, and I hope this has been helpful.